Well, today we have an amazing young lady, and you might be wondering why I'm wearing this. It's just to keep up with her amazing smile and the brightness she brings into the room. Uh,
Thank you, Toby. Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here.
you've been really busy recently. Your kind of videos are all over the shop. I think I've got it. You've done 560 videos in 3 years.
Have I?
Yeah, you've almost
Oh,
got 1,000
wow.
subscribers now, so it's really good that people are sort of taking note of you.
Yeah, oh
Um,
bless. Yeah, thank you. It's been a bit of a journey, but the videos that we have going out now seem to be what people need to hear and receive. So it feels like a really good flow. But 500 and odd, hey, I didn't even
yeah,
know that.
yeah. But they're really good, like, and you cover so much. What would you say is your specialism? Because you're a teacher of mystery schools, apparently.
Mm.
I suppose that covers it all, doesn't it?
Well, the mystery schools, wow, yes. So this world is based on some universal principles and laws, right? There are certain things that help us come into being, certain kind of, you could even call it like cheat codes to kind of work through life and really master your lifetime, really master what it is that you're here to do in your soul mission. So uh, with anything that refers to the mystery schools, it's really, I'm paying tribute um, to all beings that have gone before, to everyone that is here right now, because we're all actively a part of these sets of initiations that we give to ourselves from our highest self offers us, so that when we arrive with this veil of illusion, we know how to break through that bit by bit and also enjoy the process. um, but yeah, what is the main thing I speak of? It's quite a broad range. I feel right now we're focusing a lot on shadow integration, because it's coming up for people. Wounds, traumas, they're coming up for people. So helping people see through the illusion and find their way back to their hearts, back to the one true heart. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, if you've seen a couple of the videos, what do you feel? What were you most drawn to? Because this it's quite broad, hey?
Well, mainly working out where your accent was from, because there's some American in there, there's some Northern in there.
I've lived in a
We'll
few
get
different places.
we'll get to that in a minute. But well, can you explain shadow just for people that might not be able to
Yeah,
understand that?
absolutely.
It's a duality type thing, isn't it?
Every time we have an experience that causes us emotional distress, emotional high emotional charge, especially in a what most people can perceive as negative. I don't see it as negative, but collectively we tend to say, oh, it's a negative emotion. I'm feeling betrayal or hurt or grief or rejection. Or every time we have an experience like that that does not have a satisfying emotional resolution, it causes us to break part of ourselves away, which means taking that part of ourself out of our heart space, and it starts to move around us, just trying to get home. We call it a shadow because it's we've separated ourselves from the light of our heart. So the shadow is like a container. It's like a bubble, a sphere holding that part of ourself until it can find its way home. But right now, where the world is at, with everything we are all calling in, it starts by calling in those parts of emotional distress, those parts of trauma that we all have, to feel, to heal, to alchemize, and bring it back home right here.
That's brilliant, really.
Yeah,
And it's obvious as well, but it's just not recognized and it's not taught or anything. And I was watching
it's
one
not.
of
Yeah.
one of your videos on the Amazon, in the shop, your local shop, and they're sort of like it's like they didn't know what to do, and you just kind of left them to it rather than it
Okay,
must
that's
be
an old
quite
one.
frustrating for you. Yeah, that's cool. I've looked at loads.
I was like,
Um,
I was like, what? Which one's that? Oh, I know
yeah,
which one
yeah.
you're talking
Well, you
about.
went to,
Yeah,
I should explain really. You went to an Amazon store. You went to a shop to send back an Amazon parcel.
yeah,
The two people on the counter had no idea what they were doing, and
yeah,
they had no skills to actually work it out quickly. But
yeah,
you said you could have easily just jumped in there and done
yeah.
it
That
for them, but
it's not the point, though. Hey,
you let them,
yeah,
and you could feel the energy growing, like that kind of community. And I had a vision of you actually
yeah.
teaching sort of children actually, and that kind of thing, in an easier to sort of digest form, how to
Yeah.
manage emotions and how to,
Oh.
you could go a bit deeper if they ask questions, and especially teenagers. I had a vision of you sort of really bringing it to the mainstream. And I don't see why that can't be put on the curriculum if we're supposed to all be ascending. It could be an actual thing at some point. You'd obviously go into schools as a contractor of some sort. But how cool would that be?
Toby, that's such a great point.
Yeah.
That's such a great point, because this is the amalgamation that really we are starting to move towards. I mean, even if you look at the past 10 years alone, the awareness of emotional health, the awareness of mental health, it's grown, and none of it starts as an adult. It starts with our childhood. It starts, in those situations, those societal situations, right? So for you to even share that, I think is so beautiful, really, because how better off would we be? What, the playing field that would be starting from would be such a solid base if, instead of shaming emotion and things like that, we saw everyone's emotion expression as a process.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful, especially for teenagers. That's when our first major initiation comes in, is around that age. Yeah.
I remember at age 13, I just felt so lost. The universe was there, it was horrible. I'd just come out of quite a strict private school before that. I just remember standing there, like we were all going. I was a day student. I wasn't a board or anything. Standing there thinking, God, the immensity of this universe was just pressing down on me. I felt so small. I remember that like it was yesterday. It's amazing, and it'd be nice to have someone that could give guidance like yourself. I mean, it would have to be a certain type of person, the Jackie Whites of the world, yourself, that can actually deliver it in a really nice fashion with a big smile and good energy, So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's something for the future. So it's something you're doing anyway with other people.
That's really beautiful, though. That's really, really beautiful. And just to kind of touch on that a bit more as well, when we're a teenager, especially, it's our first major initiation. It's when we are really starting to find or receive, is probably a better way of phrasing it, the parts of ourself that we'd forgotten before we arrived here. We always speak of this veil of amnesia. It's like, it's when that first major part of us starts to come back. And as a teenager, you're so super sensitive. It doesn't matter what era you're from, what generation, it doesn't matter. You're so super sensitive. And so it wouldn't surprise me you felt so much pressure and restriction, especially in a private school, because you're probably also feeling the energy of everyone else, student, pupil, and teacher as well, all those illusions that they might have and things that they're processing.
A lot of the teachers are bigger children than the children, to be fair. They come out of school, go to university, go back to school, and they just don't grow up, basically.
In this perpetual cycle.
Yeah, and you're doing quite a lot of that work anyway. But the one thing I've noticed about all of this, I mean, you go to Knowlton. I went up to see Tim, Tim, obviously, Tim at Glastonbury, just on a whim, actually. Something drove me to go and see him.
It was a good whim, though. I saw the photos; they were fantastic.
Yeah, it was nice. It's quite difficult to take pictures in that because there's different lights. It's like all red, but they came out well. And you look at any of those events, and I'd say the average age is it's most people above 50, and most people are women. And I've had this conversation with Adrian the other day. We were talking about men in this space. And if everyone is coming in without karma, they're all supposed to be evolved. We're all moving to 5G, that kind of thing, which is what you both go on about, which is ascension. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Just to have to encourage more people into that type of space. And it doesn't even have to be, kind of hippy dippy, kind of that kind of thing. You don't have to dress differently or do anything. You can study it. It's just being a human. And I think there's a really good, it's probably being done, and it's probably a really good area to get into, sort of the 20-year-olds, 20 to 30-year-old. How old are you? Sorry, I don't.
I'm in my 30s.
Okay, cool. So you're younger than most of the people out there, and it's very obvious that is. So it's really cool.
Thank you.
I do think there is definitely a kind of opening for that. And you meant, sorry, go on.
No. I was just gonna agree. It's an interesting way that we perceive age, and kind of as people call it, the ascension process. And I just find that generationally, there's a very different approach to that. you know, like the 20 something year olds, you know, some of them may be so kind of clued in like on an emotional basis because they've grown up with this a different, more open heart space, even though they're still going to have their own initiations, they're still going to have their own challenges, their own things that come up, you know, that they have to process. But it's a different world, right? It's a different world, really. So every time we look at a people on a generational level as well, there's almost like a collective generational trauma base that comes in that will have a particular remedy vibrationally as well, you know. So I sometimes wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm just kind of pondering out loud, but I sometimes wonder as well, you know, I'm like, perhaps it is something to do with the generational bracket, and even like where Pluto is, you know, what sign Pluto is in, because I always find that there is this generational kind of thing with those that are born between this date and this date, you know, this 10-12 year
Weird,
gap.
isn't it?
And then it's interesting just to think about. I just kind of like to do stuff like that, but you know,
By my parents' generation, you can see the fear in their eyes because they've grown up without the internet, but they've had TVs which they've probably watched every night, newspapers. They've had post-war parents who obviously there was a lot of fear, and you know that I mean, 2020, what a load of rubbish compared to the whole city being bombed. Imagine that. Imagine how people react today.
I couldn't imagine it.
But you can see the impact 2020 has had, and I think it's a good thing actually. Very good. I'm watching it, and
I think so too.
Imagine the impact of that war. You know, they're just over in France. You know, amazing. So yeah, it's really, really good to look at that. And you've mentioned about the things that can affect whole numbers of people, especially with collective consciousness. And you mentioned about being in a garden centre with that text, which must have been last year, wasn't it? That text.
Oh gosh.
I just looked
at it.
Recently.
It was only recently. It was like, when was it?
This year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
It was
That's how much attention I put on it. I literally, I woke up, I was like, whatever. I just cancelled it. There's on your settings, cancel. I was like, fuck off.
It took me a while to find the cancel though. I was just like, because obviously I don't, it might not be obvious, but I don't have a TV. I don't watch TV. I don't tune into any social media posts about world events. It's not my world. So I was really unaware as well that this was going to happen.
Same here.
Some people knew because apparently it was advertised, but then so yeah, what Toby's speaking of is in the UK we all phones got this overriding siren and text message that the government essentially kind of put into practice, right? To just message everyone that had a cell phone number or a mobile number. And I was in a garden center at the time, and everyone's phone, even if it was on silent, which mine was, just went, you know, started going off like foghorning, people jumping out of their skin and like panicking. You could feel the wave of panic just move through. And it's like, look how sensitive we actually all are. I mean, was that the sound that set that off? Was that the vibration? Was that the thoughts? There are so many aspects to it, but really everyone is super sensitive. We don't even realize it, but you could feel a tidal wave of energy. It prompted a video that came out, like, I think the same day. I think I put it on my Facebook. But yeah, it was fascinating. But yeah, it took me a while to find that switch to turn it off. But it was like very well hidden.
A tangible kind of energy, which is great. That gives you like kind of real life like that's like, right, okay, that I am sensitive, that kind of thing, because sometimes it's difficult to put unless you get to a certain level, which you're probably at, but I'm not. And it's nice when you get something that's you can watch it, you know. I watch out the school when I take my kids to school. It's quite a working class school, really nice school. The headmistress is a Reiki teacher, Reiki master actually, and so that's helped. But the parents, I watch the parents and children, and I link it. I often know when it's a full moon just from the behaviour, and it's really cool. It's my barometer. I've got a few people that I picked out, and it's what I'm noticing at the moment is people's emotional reaction, but also what they put on certain things, which really shouldn't matter, in my opinion, but it matters a lot to them. And it's like today, my wife was saying she went with a friend of hers, and someone parked in front of the school gate. The friend just started going, but basically wanted to go to the reception to get the key so he could come in, and that's what they do. And she's actually going loopy at him, apparently taking pictures. I'm going to report this to the police, but the guy just was like, whatever.
Yeah.
It was nice to start with and thought, I'm not going to get anywhere with this. I'm just going to walk away. She can deal with that on her own. And it's so powerful. And even in the groups we go to, this especially like the sort of New Forest Freedom group, a lot of people put a lot of energy and emotion into certain things.
Yeah.
How would you do you think that could be, that's something you teach, isn't it? And how would you teach
Yeah.
that to someone that's sort of Joe Blogs on the street?
Yeah, that's
What they need.
really that's a really great question and great observation as well. Emotion, the purpose of emotion is to alchemize and to unite. And that might seem a little bit backwards for how we've experienced our own experiences and how we've perceived other people when they're having an emotional response to something. But the emotion is there to tell you how unified all aspects of you are. So let me say that in a slightly different way. The conscious mind. So if you were to say, you know, if I was to ask you kind of like, you know, what do you like to do? You know, what are you good at? What do you like to do? I could even say, what are you maybe not so good at? What's your opportunities? All those questions you have an answer to. You know, something will come to your mind and a response will come. That's conscious. But then you've got different levels of mind. The shadows that we spoke of just a little bit earlier, they're in the subconscious realm. We're not really aware of them. Now, I start answering your question this way because what emotion does is it tells us whether our subconscious mind is in harmony with our conscious mind. It tells us whether our higher self is able to come through. It tells us just how we are aligned, really. Now, in the world that we're in, like the Joe Blogs of the world, as you say, most people maybe aren't in practice of observing their emotion, of feeling their emotion. We're so, we're so trained to shame ourselves and to belittle and to stifle what the emotion is, or to, express it in an unhealthy way because we just don't know how. That we look away from it and we go, oh, that person's a this, or that person's that, or oh, I'm this, or oh, I'm that. When really, if we actually found a way to feel the emotion, if it's there, let it alchemize. That's the job of emotion. But in the rest of the time, observe. Because we're really this avatar. All of us are really an avatar. Like the body's here to serve us, right? The body knows what it's doing. The body's here to serve us. And every time we're feeling something, whether that's an emotion, a thought, a sensation, could be a sensation in the solar plexus, whatever we're feeling, that's direct communication really from your higher self being translated through the instrument of your body, right? If we started to just self-observe in a way, if I met Joe Blogs on the street and they were like, I'm feeling all this emotion, or this person's just exploded at me, I'd be like, oh, okay. Do you feel like it has to consume your whole day though? Can we observe? Can we just breathe and observe? What an interesting response, but it's not about me. My emotions about me. Someone else's isn't though. We've forgotten how to observe and be the observer of ourselves. We look out too much rather than just in, Did that make sense? Or was that a bit convoluted? Or
combined with that, there's the energetic exchange, which you don't see as well. Yeah. I mean, I know if like my wife's in a bad mood before I've even come down the stairs, she's going to want a cuddle or something.
Yeah, you'll feel it.
So it's people. A lot of people don't realize that, and that's getting away from someone physically is also probably quite an important thing, or a group of people. I'm a wedding DJ, so I get chucked into a whole mishmash of all sorts of people every week. It's the ultimate test.
It is. It absolutely is.
And I love it. So
yeah, absolutely. When we start to be aware of what we are feeling, like really noticing the subtleties of what we're experiencing, sensational or emotional or anything, what happens is we start to be able to read and connect with others, the purpose of this being. And this actually links in with a lot of things that people ask for. They ask for telepathy, they ask for, intuition, they ask for this. They have it already, but we're just fine-tuning it. The more we self-observe, the more we are able to self-regulate and co-regulate within other, the more we are able to actually hold space for one another and build a strong foundation, build a strong community without the judgment, which is beautiful place to be leading to, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest one's judgment of self, isn't it? Like,
Oh yeah, everything
that was a
is.
big problem
Everything's judgment of
from,
self.
I was just talking about my parents' generation. I mean, the horrendous crap they had to go through at school with just a cane, you know, but punish, basically if you do anything wrong, it would just be beaten out of you. And it was only a short, that's only a short-term thing, isn't it? And then people just get angry or they just give up, basically.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah, it leads to a lot of frustration for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So we're going to go on to your accent. Is that because you spent time with Melissa, your other half?
Oh, she's a beautiful sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lived in Canada.
Ah, right, cool.
I lived in Canada. I lived in France. It was quite interesting actually, because when I was younger, I'm from the north of England. I'm from Manchester, and when I would go on school trips, if we were getting kind of very encouraging with one another, like I remember when I was a teenager, we were at this, it was like an adventure park thing, you know, I can't remember what it was, but it was like we were there for a weekend. I was encouraging some of my classmates to cross this really high up, whatever it was, you know, la la la. And in my shouting of encouragement, apparently my accent kind of merged into this kind of, it shifted from being British to kind of being something else anyway. So it was before I actually even lived in different places, this other bits of accent started coming through. But yeah, no, I spent a good few years in Canada, over in Alberta, and I lived in France as well, which was just absolutely stunning. And I've just been here, there, and everywhere, up and down the country, you know. So it kind of, it merges and it chameleons a little bit, depends on who I'm speaking with, and you know, and topics as well. I don't know. It's always interesting when someone says, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, I don't know. What's it sound like right now?
I've not had enough conversations with you, but I've only watched all your videos. I was like, where are you from?
I know. The most common question I get, where are you from? I'm like, well, I'm from Earth right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel more Mediterranean, to be fair. I feel a lot more Spanish. I'm going to Spain in a couple of weeks with the kids.
Are you? Oh, how nice. Oh,
I love
the
it
sun there as well.
The sun's here. It's baking outside.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this YouTube thing for 3 years. Obviously, there was something leading up to that. When did you first sort of start doing this kind of stuff? Or when did you feel like, because it's not regarded as normal, is it? So were your parents into all of that? Like,
great question.
Yeah.
I don't think my parents really understand what I do. I jumped online in 2020 because, you know, I mean, the whole world kind of stopped doing what they were doing, right? And everything just kind of shifted online. So I was already offering healing and offering, you know, guidance. I mean, in this whole lifetime, I've always been, no matter my age, people have always come to me for wisdom and guidance. Like it's, you know, 4-year-old, you know, 10-year-old. I was always the person or the child or the teenager or the whomever that people would come to and talk to. So it's not specifically new in that sense, but going online, like you say, yeah, for 3 years, when the whole world went online, really is when that started. And yeah, it's just evolved and shifted and refined itself, and it'll continue to do so, right? You know, our offerings and how we express ourselves always do tend to evolve with the collective need. So yeah, that's kind of how that led up to it. It's just the whole world going online, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna start doing this. I wasn't new to being on camera or like you know, doing any like Facebook lives or anything like that, but in this capacity, it was a lot of fun. And in that particular time, there was a lot of heartache for people. And I just started, my first few videos were literally just helping people on an individual basis, just going comment to comment and offering a bit of guidance, person to person to person to person. And yeah, that's how I started online. But
well, I mean, I've put off having this chat, to be fair, because I thought I'd be a bit out of my depth with all the like wacky stuff you talk about. But actually, I get it. I've looked through your videos, and but it comes like intuitively, like the stuff you're talking about. I can sit through 2 days with Tim Wilde and know exactly what he's on about.
Yeah.
It's really cool, isn't it? Because you're sort of tapping into sort of a greater knowledge base kind of thing. Is that what happened with you, or did you watch a lot of videos and follow people before that?
No, I mean, there's always people that have kind of helped me through whatever I was going through as well. You know, whenever we are seeking, we will find, right? And so it's not as though I didn't watch anyone at any point. I don't watch people now on videos and things like that. I haven't done for years, but I'll tune into occasional videos if it feels like it's appropriate and it's meant to, like if I'm getting the guidance to do so. But like you just say, and you know what this is like anyway, Toby, you know, you tune in as well, right? You know, when we're in that space and a question is posed, you know, we're able to receive that if we are in the receptive mode. And more people are getting into the receptive mode. Everyone can really do what we're doing. Everyone can really, you know, bring through this guidance. It just depends on how disciplined they are in allowing themselves to move into that receptive mode. We all, I feel personally, or what my truth is we all have a very unique expression of whatever we're here to do, whether that's channel or heal or teach or anything. Whether we receive inspiration at any point from another or not, it's always going to be uniquely expressed through us. And it's felt by people receiving that. If it's mimicked or copied, then it won't have the same energy, it won't impact them in that way.